everybody, and welcome to Good Sports. I'm here with my good pal, Mike Espejo, and today we're going to be talking about the craziest month of basketball, more specifically college basketball, girls and boys, March Madness. Mike, it's crazy.
It's a crazy time of year.
It's madness.
They call it madness.
Yeah.
They do.
So first off, let's talk a little about the phenomenon of this March Madness. M&M, not the candy, the March Madness.
March Madness, it's a great time of year, especially for basketball fans, college basketball fans. Everyone does their brackets, and it's one of the most unique championships, I think, in all of sports, because it's 68 teams, one and done, and they play all the way to what's called the Final Four, which everyone knows, and they determine a champion. And I think it's a really fun month, maybe 3-4 weeks of weekends of action, and people really get into it with their brackets, and now with the advent of sports gambling here in Massachusetts, it seems like taking a bigger plunge into our sports world.
Now I see that you brought your bracket.
I did.
So how long have you been doing the bracket?
So I've been doing brackets a long time, and it's funny you asked that. The first time I ever did it was in this school. It was one day, I think it was at study hall, and we were in the library, and a classmate named Tim Hawley was ripping up all these little pieces of paper and writing all the teams down and putting them all in a hat, and we'd pick them all out. And I always wondered, like, what are they doing? And everyone got all excited, and they're picking out teams. And he pretty much wrote out all the teams and put them, in a box, and everyone picked them out. And that was my first experience with the NCAA men's basketball tournament, was little pieces of paper in the high school library.
Wow. So talk a little about what you look for in these brackets.
So I look for a lot. I think one of the great phenomenons about the tournament is that it's like a national thing. It's a national following. And one of the things I don't like about the Northeast is we're more of a pro sports area. We don't get as big into college football as the rest of the country. And this tournament is one way that the Northeast actually does jump in and participate in the national college spectrum of sports. So I went to a Big Ten school in the Midwest, and it's huge out there, basketball and football. And at least going out there, I had no idea how big Big Ten football was, but I knew the magnitude of this tournament because even up here in the Northeast, it's a big deal. So putting together your bracket, there's always like tips you see and tips you want to follow. I always look for, so there are 68 teams, and they have 64 teams, 4 brackets with 16 teams in each bracket, each west, north, south, whatever. But they have 4 play-in games called the First Four, which they added this in 2011. They went from 64 to 68 teams. So what I look for is each little section or bracket is seeded 1 to 16 for 16 teams, 1 being the best, 16th being the lowest seed. And some of the tips I do when filling out the bracket is a 12 seed will always beat a 5, which always seems to happen every year. It's always one that you should pick. And a lot of times when you pick up, the Final Four and you go through brackets, fill them out, the top seeds are usually the cream is gonna rise to the top. I think I read that out of all the champions in the March Madness, a number 1 seed has won the tournament 25 times, and that's more than every other seed combined. The lowest seed to ever win the tournament was an 8 seed, 1985, Villanova, Raleigh Massimino, and a guy named Ed Pinckney, who played on the Celtics, was on that team. So most of the time it's going to be one of your top seeds. So you pretty much want to pick chalk, which is the favorites, through to the Final Four. But there are always upsets, like a 12 beats a 5. And you also want to pick teams with good guard play. A lot of times these games come down to who has the better backcourt, who can move the ball, who can face strong defensive pressure. So teams with good guards always seem to do well. And one thing I try not to do is pick the number 1 overall seed, which is this year's UConn. So look out UConn, because the number one, the best, highest ranked seed hardly ever wins. I think since 2004, only 3 teams have won it. Florida 2007, Kentucky 2012, Louisville 2013. So look out UConn or people who pick UConn, because odds are they're not going to win.
Now, I saw something on Instagram. Someone's been predicting who's going to win these national championships. They've been pretty much correct. They already said Michigan. They said KC. Michigan won?
Michigan won the football.
Yeah. KC won. They said, oh yeah, they're going to win. And this is basketball, but they already said in the NBA and the NHL it will be Celtics and Bruins.
Really?
I will say it right now. The person who said this, they said it's going to be the Celtics and Bruins, so we'll look forward to that in June.
Or person.
Now, what did he say about the NCAA? He said Purdue will win.
Purdue.
Yes. So what do you think of that? Do you think...
So that's funny. I picked Purdue last year, and they were a number 1 seed, and they lost in the first round to a number 16 seed. It's only happened twice in the history of the tournament. Purdue last year, and in 2018, a college called the University of Maryland at Baltimore County beat Virginia for the first time ever that a 16 would ever beat a 1. So I would always look for that. Like I'd always watch those, because usually they're blowouts, like a number 1 seed versus a 16 seed. You're pretty much talking one of the top 4 teams in the country against one of the 4 worst teams in the tournament for opening round. But I thought it would be so cool to see a 16 beat a 1, and it took till 2018 for it to ever happen. So Purdue has a really good guy. I think his name is Zach Edey. Super tall. He's like 7'4", looks like a big, tall dude, and he's very good. So we'll see. Purdue has it's a Big Ten school. They have a great basketball tradition, and I hope that guy's right. I wouldn't mind that.
Drew Brees went to Purdue.
Yes, he did.
So I actually wrote down a bunch of these Sweet 16 matchups. I can go through them. We'll read them all.
Right. At the time of taping, we've been through the first 2 rounds. That's the opening weekend. You do the first and second rounds, where they cut us down from 68 teams to 32, down to 16. And now we're at the Sweet 16, which starts in 2 days. And the Sweet 16 are Thursday, Friday this week, and then the Elite 8 are Saturday, Sunday this week. And then next weekend, we go to the Final 4. So we're down to 16 teams. How do we get here in the 2004 tournament?
2004.
2024.
We're going backwards, folks. We are going backwards.
Time
2004. Machine. It also was a leap year, but that's getting off track. So, Sweet 16. I'll just read them off. Who's in it, and then we're gonna go how they got there. So first, we have the 2nd seed Arizona taking on the 6th Clemson. What do you think of that? Maybe I'll just say briefly. I'll just say good matchup, or because we'll probably.
Yeah. So I don't. Clemson was a surprise winner over Baylor. I think this is like the first time that Clemson has ever gone past the second round in like many years. I forget what it was. And that's going to be a good matchup. I think Arizona will win. They're the 2 seed, and Clemson's kind of in new territory, so we'll see.
Next, we have the number 1 seed UConn against San Diego State, which they are the 5th seed. Yes,
UConn is a strong team, the number 1 overall team ranked out of all the schools, and I think they'll advance to the Elite 8.
Next, another number 1 seed, North Carolina against the number 4 Alabama.
Another great matchup, and one I had on my bracket. North Carolina is actually who I picked to win the whole thing, so I'm going to pick North Carolina there. They're very strong. They come from the ACC, who usually has 2 strong teams, North Carolina and Duke.
Continuing on, we have the 2nd seed Iowa State against number 3 seed Illinois.
Right, and this one is Iowa State. I think is going to be a very dangerous team. They're a 2 seed, and they're very, very good. Not typically a basketball powerhouse like some of these teams, like Carolina or UConn, and even Kentucky, who got upset in the first round, which I was happy to see because I'm not a big fan. So I think Iowa State will take them. Illinois is a Big Ten school, but Iowa State just seems really good. They have that good guard play, and I think that'll be key for them to advance.
Now, before we talk to the other 4 teams, Do you see any upsets in the first 4 games I just mentioned? Do you see anything crazy going on? Do you feel that there will be an upset, or do you feel that the teams that you picked will win?
Well, I always am wary of the number 1 overall team, the Yukon Huskies, but again, they're pretty strong and they've been great all year, so I don't think they're going to lose till the next round. So I think it's going to all go with favorites in this one.
Okay. Who do you like? Any specific favorites that you like in those first 4 games? I just
Carolina, because I
Carolina?
picked them to win. Yep. And when you get to this part of the tournament, Sweet 16, Elite 8, your last 16 teams, last 8 teams, this is where kind of the cream rises to the top.
Yeah.
And there aren't as many upsets as in the first 2 rounds when it gets wild and crazy with 12s beating 5s and 16s beating 1s. You kind of
16's beating 1. Woo.
yeah. You
Just hearing
kind
that
of
just
it kind of gets down to things. They settle in. They're not as nervous, and things start to happen around this time in the tournament as they're supposed to.
All right, we are moving on to the next 4 teams. So we're going to start out with David, number 2 seed Marquette versus the 11 seed North Carolina State.
Yeah, Marquette is always a strong program. They're in the Big East, and North Carolina State, I did not have them on my bracket because of that big upset of Kentucky, which I don't mind. So I'm not really sure on this one. I was predicting Kentucky to win it, but they're not here, so I think that one could be an upset you're talking about. That NC State is an 11 seed. Wow, going up against Marquette, which is a 2 seed. Maybe we'll see. Maybe they'll be our Cinderella this year.
So I just want to mention that number 4 Oakland beat Kentucky number 3. So that's definitely an upset.
Yeah, Oakland was a 14.
Yeah, 4. Sorry.
Yeah, so that was a huge upset, and Kentucky's a perennial basketball powerhouse. Coach Calipari, and they did a piece on the CBS broadcast when Oakland made the tournament. He's friends with Coach Calipari, who coaches Kentucky, and they were trading text messages and ended up playing each other, and he ended up beating Kentucky. So it was a pretty cool story.
Now we got another number 1 seed, Purdue versus number 5 Gonzaga.
Yeah, and to your Instagram fortune teller.
I got a feeling.
You got a feeling. Gonzaga comes from out west. I think it's the WAC conference, and they always, the Western Athletic Conference.
The WAC.
Yep, and they're always strong, but again, Purdue, I think they kind of learned last year after getting bounced in the first round that they're more serious. And again, Zach Edey is just one of the players of the year candidate. He's 7'4". He's very tall, very good, and they're going to be tough to beat.
Another number 1 seed, Houston, taking on number 4 Duke.
Yeah, so Duke is another one of those teams from the ACC along with Carolina, always very good. Always every year just seems to be right there, that does well in the tournament, and I think Duke will take them.
Now we got a number 2 seed, Tennessee, number 3 against Creighton.
Yeah, Creighton, also another strong team from the West, and Tennessee at 2. This one's kind of a coin toss. I think if you got a 2 seed against a 3 seed, not really familiar with either team, to be honest. So that's one of the beauties, right, of this. Like, you get teams from all over the country, and you get your college pride, and people follow, their colleges through the tournament, and it's a good way to kind of, reconnect with college friends and stuff when tournament time comes around and talk about the games. It's just a fun event.
So have you been to one of these tournament games?
I have. In college, I went to see my alma mater, the Buckeyes, play in the University of Kentucky in Lexington. And it's very cool because you go to these tournaments and it's a weekend, right? Whether it's the first weekend where it's first and second round, or this weekend, like Boston's hosting the Sweet 16 Elite 8, and you get pretty much 8 groups of fans that come to that city, and the bars are going crazy. And what's cool is they seat all of the fans in each section of the arena, and if your team happens to win on the first game, a lot of people whose teams lose, tickets become available. So you can even if, like, say this weekend when the teams come to town to the TD Garden in Boston, I know it's sold out really early last fall, but in the secondary market, those first 2 teams to lose, all of those fans are going to be looking to go home, and those tickets will flood the market, and it's an easy way to get in for maybe cheaper.
Now, Boston is hosting a couple of games this weekend. I know you
They
told
are.
me that you were not attending, but that's going to be one big atmosphere.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I was doing some reading on the Boston's bid. I guess we applied in February of 2020.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's 4 years out.
Yeah, and it was a committee of different groups, and they said the economic impact of the games will be $25 million to Boston.
Wow.
They had to book, the host committee had to book like 600 rooms in 4 different hotels, and they need a whole new basketball court because all the courts are uniform in the tournament. If you watch like the tournament games and they bounce around, they give you a live look in. It'll look like the same, but all the courts look the same, but the words will be different, and they actually have to change the baskets to NCAA official baskets. So those aren't the regular basketball nets that the Celtics use. They're brand new for the tournament that they'll bring
Wow,
in.
so they're going to be changing everything there. It won't even look like the Garden. It'll look like something else. But where is this?
It'll look completely different.
It's in Boston. What?
Yeah, it won't be
Yeah.
parquet. It'll be the NCAA floor, and you could pretty much interchange all of the broadcasts on the same day, and you wouldn't. If you didn't read what the writing was, it'll say NCAA. It won't say, the Celtic guy or anything.
Yeah.
Other than the words on the court, you wouldn't know where you were.
Wow. That's
the-
going to be an interesting sight to see.
Yeah, it's cool.
Because has Boston ever hosted it before?
Yeah, they've done it before. We've got it
Year?
maybe 5 years. I want to say about 5 years ago, the last time. We get it every. They try and move them around.
Wow. So let's talk about a phenomenal female athlete, Caitlin Clark of Iowa State. She played last night, so as of this taping, we're filming this on the 26th, so she played last night. They won 64-54. Usually they're in the high 90s, Iowa State with Caitlin Clark. But how do you think she's doing in this tournament? It feels like she's a phenomenal player.
She's really fun to watch, and she's become kind of a national phenomenon. And I think some people are even more excited to watch her play than the men. She's just an amazing shooter. She's breaking all these records for scoring, and she's must-watch TV. Last night I had a meeting, and we ran a little long, and I was watching the clock. I wanted to run home and watch her game. I didn't get home till halftime, so I was a little annoyed. But she's must-watch TV, and I think her next game is Saturday afternoon. So she's really fun to watch. And last night was her last game ever in her home arena for the Iowa Hawkeyes. So she's a senior this year, and she'll probably go on to the WNBA next. She's awesome.
What's your favorite part about seeing her perform in these NCAA tournament?
I just think the poise that she has. She's just she just doesn't get rattled. Even if that game last night I think was tied. They were playing West Virginia, and they were tied with like 2 or 3 minutes left, and she never really looked panicked or never really looked like nervous or scared. She's just very composed, and she's the real deal, man. She's a great player, and she just can shoot the lights out of the ball. She's really good.
What's your favorite part about the broadcast itself?
Well, this is kind of funny. One thing I love about the tournament is at the end of each tournament, they do a musical montage called One Shining Moment. And the song is by Luther Vandross. And they put together a highlight clip of all the cool moments, the buzzer beaters. And the song's very catchy. And there are like things online that rate like the best One Shining Moment montages. And they're all on YouTube if you ever want to check it out. But the championship game is always like a Monday night, and it always starts late, but I always try and stay up late because after they do the trophy presentation and interviews, then the last thing they do before they cut the broadcast is play their One Shining Moment. And it's cool because that montage has highlights from that game. They splice it, I think, probably as the game's going on, and it's a cool thing. You should check it out if you're not familiar. I love that little montage.
Who do you think will win the whole thing?
North Carolina. That's
Carolina.
my pick. They're a number 1 seed. I think they are top to bottom very talented, and they've got the right amount of seniors, and they have good pedigree. They have good guts. So they just have a good, strong basketball pedigree. They're always good, and I think that's my pick. I don't know. It's so tough to pick.
What are your It feels like I just asked the prediction question because I just said, who do you think is going to win? You say NC. State
Yeah,
or NC.
and I think that in the Final Four.
NC State's an 11 seed. What are you talking about?
No,
Robert?
North
What are
Carolina.
you talking about?
University of North Carolina. In the Final Four, I also have Iowa State coming out of one bracket, Duke, and Purdue. So, and in the championship, I have North Carolina and Purdue. So we'll see what happens.
Do you think they'll be going into? I saw there was a game goes into double overtime. Do you think that'll be good? Purdue and NC. Imagine if they went to like double overtime.
That'll be fun. Have you ever done the brackets before?
No.
Never.
No.
Did you ever watch a tournament before?
Yes.
You did.
I've never done a bracket. It feels like it's like if I'm looking at like your sheet and it just looks so complicated. Like it's just like, what if do you type this out or is it all like electronically? Let's say like, okay, I'm picking X, Y, and Z for this round. Like, does it change frequently or do you have to like physically like?
Yeah. Well, it looks overwhelming when you see all these 64 teams, and most of the time they don't include the first four. But back in the day, we'd have to write them all down.
Oh, so was
down.
that must have been a hassle?
Yeah,
like,
and then
wait, like if you wrote it in like let's say like I don't know pen, like I don't know that. Wait a minute.
Right. Get the white out. But it's funny because the way they're scoring too. Like if you're in a tournament with people, like if you get the first round right, it's 1 point. Then it's like 3 points and 5 or whatever. So back in the day, you'd have to write it down and figure it all out by hand. Nowadays, you can just click on the screen and you just pick one and it autofills.
See, that's definitely,
yeah.
you probably enjoy that than
just
writing it out.
Just like fantasy football, the bracket pools have evolved and the thing calculates it all for you. You just have to type in what you want to make each round worth. And yeah, I filled out my bracket literally. The first game started Thursday, I think at 12:15. I think I filled this out from 11:55 to 12:02.
What?
Getting it in under the wire. So yeah.
Wow. So the Final Four and National State Champion will be played in Glendale, Arizona, State Farm Stadium, which is also home of the Arizona Cardinals. So how will that work? Are they going to get rid of the grass? Are they going to?
So it's so weird. They take these championship games and they put them in big football stadiums, and that I've never been to. I just feel like if you're sitting up like way up high on one of the, and I know they don't use the whole stadium, they'll like section off and they'll just do the sides of the court, but they've got to be like so small if you're at the top of the stadium trying to look at.
They gotta put. Wait a minute.
A basketball court that doesn't take up probably goes from the 40 to the 40, right? And then they put seats on the field and they have the benches. So I don't know if that would be a fun experience to watch that in a dome. They also say when they're shooting, the spatial differences are weird because they're kind of shooting in an empty, like they're not in an enclosed arena. They're shooting in like a big open barn or whatever. So that they say it takes time to adjust for the players.
Why do they do that? Just have it at a regular money. Okay, money talks, folks. As we all know, that money talks.
Right.
Money talks.
When in doubt, follow the money. And
yeah.
I think it's just bigger arenas, more tickets, and to get more people in there, and then just more money, more tickets.
Do you see them having it at Gillette one day?
So yeah, in the article I was reading about Boston and the facts, they quoted, they said that Boston would never get the final because it has to be in a football stadium. And Bob Kraft said, I'd love to host it, but again, it would have to be outside, and I mean, weather in New England.
Outside? Gillette is. What are they talking about?
Yeah, it would have to be outside.
State Farm Stadium's like an indoor facility.
Right. So if we had it in Gillette, it had to be outside, and again, the weather in New England.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I don't know.
April Fool's '97, that blizzard.
Yeah, so I mean, we could get snow maybe or
Can you
rain
imagine
at least.
if they said we agree to have it at Gillette, and the day they were having it, it snowed? Well, they probably would postpone it.
So we couldn't because they never had a rain out for a basketball game. So, but it's a fun tournament, and again, you really get into it. This year there weren't many like upsets. Usually there'll be it'll be NC State at 11 seed, but. Usually there's like a Cinderella or an upset team that wins a couple rounds and everyone gets behind because if you have no rooting interest in a game, right, everyone loves an underdog. So usually the underdogs are fun to follow, and unfortunately the highest seed to ever win is an 8, which has
there ever been a seed that's like 16, like a very low seed ever won a championship?
No, the lowest was an 8.
An 8.
1985, yeah.
We don't. We really. Well, yeah. We have 6. Clemson. I mean.
And you have the 11. You have your NC
Yep.
State.
Yeah. 11. Imagine if NC State wins.
That would be cool.
That the guy who predicted the thing be like. But again, I'll say it here. He predicted that the Bruins and Celtics will win the championships. I think that'd be pretty cool.
That would be fun.
But don't.
Maybe a future Good Sports show will be a Celtics. I think that's coming up.
I don't. They usually don't have them on the same night, like finals and then the Stanley Cup. They usually have it like either that night and that night.
No, they're usually separated. Yeah.
But it's just like, I think they should do like Stanley Cups, because I know it's like different like rounds like best of 7. I think they should do like, it'd take a while, but if they have like they should just have rounds on Friday, Saturday. But what do you think of that?
Yeah, mix it up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard though with travel and different venues and stuff. And I know a lot of those arenas like the TD Garden, they probably have concerts planned, and they probably have to leave time open for the Celtics and Bruins, because there's nothing more fun in town when both teams are going, especially like on Patriots Day when you have maybe the Red Sox game early and then you have like a Bruins or Celtics playoff game at night and the city buzzes. But just like this weekend where the NCAA will be in town and you get, people coming in from all over the country to follow their school.
Easter.
Yeah, Easter, and you'll have a lot of UConn fans up here coming up north to watch their team, so it should be fun.
But I think that might have wrapped it up, Mike. Anything you really want to add? Or
no, I think just hopefully, we get NC State to, shock the world. That's always fun to watch if you're not rooting for anyone.
Or if Purdue wins.
To see if your guy's right.
See if that guy's right.
We'll have to check with that.
Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure on another episode of Good Sports. I'm Parris, and he is
Mike Espejo.
And we'll see you next time. Hopefully, your brackets or all the games you're watching predicted those teams that you want will win. But good luck, everyone, and we hope to see you in our next episode. This has been Good Sports. I'm Parris, and he's
Mike Espejo.
See you next time.
See you next time.